She's already noticed. You just don't know what she noticed. Right now, in this moment, a woman over 50 is reading your body like a book you did not realize you were writing. She is not thinking about it consciously. Her brain is processing information about you at a level that happens before thought, before you speak, before you smile, before any words exist between you. And most men have no idea this reading is even taking place. The reason you keep missing this is simple. You were taught to believe that attraction at this stage of life is about confidence, or humor, or financial stability, or some combination of things you can say or do. But attraction in your 60s is not about what comes out of your mouth. It is about what your body has already communicated before your mouth opens. You have been looking in the wrong direction your entire life, which means you have been missing the signals that matter most. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly which body signals women in this age group are tracking, why these signals matter more than youth ever could, and how to recognize when she has already made a decision about you based purely on how you carry yourself. You will see the invisible reading happening in real time, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Posture is not about vanity, it is a biological readout. Women over 50 have lived long enough to know the difference between a man who is aging and a man who is giving up. When you stand with a collapsed spine, shoulders forward, head jutting ahead of your body, you are broadcasting something specific. You are not broadcasting age, you are broadcasting decline. A woman watching this posture sees a man who has begun to fold inward, who has surrendered to gravity rather than resisting it. And at 50, 60, 70, this distinction matters more than it ever did when you were younger, because it separates the men who are still living from the men who are managing. A vertical spine reads differently, shoulders drawn back slightly, chin level to the ground, weight settled into your frame rather than slumped forward. This is not about military posture or stiffness. This is about alignment. This is about a man who has decided his body is still worth carrying well. A woman over 50 sees this posture, and her brain registers vitality before she registers anything else. Before she hears your voice, before she knows your name. The vertical spine is the first conversation you have with any woman over 50, and you are having it whether you realize it or not. Most men think posture is a small detail. They think it is something to correct in a photo or straighten for 5 minutes in a social setting. But here is what most men miss. Your default posture, the shape your body takes when you are not thinking about it, is being read constantly. When you are standing in a coffee shop waiting for your order, when you are sitting at a dinner table before the conversation gets good, when you are walking across a parking lot with no one watching. These moments are not inconsequential. These are the moments when your body is telling the truth about your life. The next layer of this is even more important. Your posture is not static. Your posture either improves or it declines. A woman over 50 can tell the difference between a man working to maintain his spine and a man who has already given up. She cannot tell from one interaction, of course, but over time, consistency in posture becomes visible. It becomes proof. But posture alone is not what she is reading. There is a second signal that works alongside it, and this one is even more unconscious. Your hands are speaking before your mouth does, and women over 50 can read the difference between someone who is comfortable and someone who is managing anxiety. Think about the last conversation you had with someone you wanted to impress. Where were your hands? Were they still, resting naturally at your sides or in your lap? Or were they moving without purpose, adjusting your collar, touching your face, running through your hair, shifting from pocket to pocket? Most men do not realize their hands are even moving, but women over 50 notice. This is one of the first things they notice. Hands that move without intention broadcast anxiety. Not nervousness exactly, something deeper. They broadcast a man who is not at ease in his own body. A man who is managing some level of internal discomfort, and his hands are leaking the evidence. Fidgeting, face touching, repetitive adjusting, these behaviors tell a woman that your nervous system is activated, that you are not settled. Hands held still, by contrast, or hands used purposefully for natural gesture, these read as self-containment. This reads as a man who is comfortable enough in his own skin that his body does not need constant regulation. At 60, this distinction becomes even more meaningful. A woman over 50 has learned that emotional regulation and physical regulation are connected. A man whose hands are still is a man whose emotions are still. A man whose hands are constantly moving is a man whose internal world is unsettled. Here is the detail most men miss. It is not that women over 50 notice fidgeting and judge it. It is that they notice still hands and interpret them as evidence of a man who has already done the work of becoming comfortable with himself. Still hands signal that you have lived long enough to know yourself. Fidgeting signals that you are still figuring it out. At your age, she is not looking for someone still figuring it out. The common mistake men make is overcompensating. They force their hands to be still, clenching them slightly, pressing them into their thighs, making themselves rigid. This reads differently than natural stillness. Natural stillness reads as comfort. Forced stillness reads as control. So the goal is not rigidity. The goal is genuine ease. Hand presence matters, but there is a third signal that sits underneath both of these, and it is about how you use gravity itself. A woman over 50 does not think about this consciously, but her brain is registering whether you are literally rooted to the ground or floating. Weight distribution is one of those signals that seems invisible until you understand what to look for. Then it becomes the most obvious thing in the room. Men who distribute their weight evenly across their base, shoulders directly over hips, weight settled equally into both feet, read as grounded, present, stable. Men who shift their weight side to side, or who lean excessively on one leg, or who sway slightly while standing, read as unmoored, as if they are not quite anchored to anything. The psychology here is straightforward. When a person feels genuinely confident and at ease, their body distributes weight symmetrically. When a person feels unstable, emotionally or physically, their body searches for balance through constant micro-adjustments. The shifting and swaying are the body's way of managing discomfort. Most people do not see this. But women over 50 have developed an intuition for what grounded presence looks like, because they have learned that grounded presence means emotional stability. At 60 and beyond, grounded presence is read as strength in a way it was not when you were younger. A young man can seem attractive while being scattered or unmoored. There is something youthful about that energy. But a man in his 60s who is scattered reads as lost. A man in his 60s who is grounded reads as someone who knows where he is and why he is there. Think about standing in a group of people. Your weight distributed evenly, your feet planted firmly, your body not searching for balance. This position communicates something without words. I am here. I am settled. I am not anxious about this moment. Most men think this is a small thing, but it is not. This is your foundation. These three are the foundation. But now we move into what reveals whether you are actually taking care of yourself. And this is where most men over 60 fail without realizing it. You cannot hide whether you have been taking care of yourself. Your skin tells this story whether you intend it to or not. Skin texture is not about wrinkles. This is important to understand. A woman over 50 does not look at your face and think less of you because you have wrinkles. She has wrinkles. Everyone has wrinkles. But she is looking at the texture of your skin as evidence of something else entirely. Whether you have been maintaining basic care or whether you have been neglecting yourself. The difference is in the details. Sun-damaged skin that is rough or leathery reads as a man who has spent decades in the sun without protection. Dehydrated skin that looks thin and papery reads as a man who is not drinking enough water or caring for his body's basic needs. Skin that looks cared for, smooth in texture, with some moisture, without the rough patches that come from years of neglect, reads as a man who takes himself seriously enough to maintain the basics. The neck and jawline are where this becomes most visible. These are the zones that reveal the truth. The neck especially shows everything. Rough texture on the neck, deep creasing, overly weathered appearance, these all read the same way to a woman over 50. Here is a man who has not been protecting his skin. Here is a man who has not been thinking about his appearance. And at your stage of life, not thinking about your appearance reads as not thinking about yourself very much at all. Of course, context always matters. A man who works outdoors will have different skin texture than a man who works in an office. But within that context, women can distinguish between a man who is doing the minimal care required and a man who is doing nothing at all. The distinction is not subtle, it is very clear. This is where many men make a crucial error. They think that caring about skin texture is vanity, so they do nothing. They do not use sunscreen, they do not moisturize, they do not protect the skin that is visible to everyone. And they wonder why they are not being seen the way they want to be seen. What they do not understand is that basic skincare is not vanity. It is basic self-respect. It is the minimum acknowledgement that your body deserves attention. Skin tells one story. But there is a second part of this signal that women over 50 read even faster, and it is about one specific part of your body. Your eyes are either advertising that you are fully here or that you are checked out. There is no middle ground in how women over 50 read this. Eyes that are clear and bright and focused read as cognitive health. They read as presence. They read as a man who is still engaged with his life, still processing the world around him, still aware and alert. Eyes that are cloudy or dull or that require constant squinting read as fatigue. They read as a man who is tired in a way that goes deeper than lack of sleep. They read as someone who has begun to check out. This is one of the fastest reads a woman over 50 makes. Before she notices your posture or your hands or how you are standing, she notices whether your eyes are alive. Because eyes reveal whether anyone is actually home. A man can fake confidence. A man can force good posture. A man can control his hands. But a man cannot fake the clarity in his eyes. The secondary part of this signal is about gaze direction and gaze consistency. A gaze that wanders, that looks around the room, that lands on her for a moment and then drifts away, reads as disinterest or distraction. A gaze that holds, that lands on her face and remains there, softly focused, taking her in, reads as respect and genuine presence. Women over 50 have learned that a man's gaze tells her whether he is actually seeing her or whether she is just another person in his visual field. Here is what most men do not understand. You might think you are being polite by not holding eye contact for very long. You might think you are being respectful by looking away frequently. But women over 50 interpret inconsistent gaze as exactly what it often is. You are not fully present with her. You are somewhere else. You are managing something. You are not actually here. Clear eyes, focused gaze, consistent attention. These three components together create a signal that reads as cognitive health and emotional availability. Without these, every other signal becomes less powerful. With these, everything else you are communicating becomes magnified. Eyes reveal internal state. But there is a fourth external signal that tells her whether that internal state is sustainable, and it comes down to how you move. How you move tells women over 50 whether your body is still cooperating with what you want to do. Movement that is fluid and unrehearsed reads as physical health. This is movement that flows without calculation. When you reach for a glass, your arm extends and your hand closes, and you bring it to your mouth without thinking about any of these steps. The movement is automatic. The body is cooperating. When a woman watches this, her brain registers one message: this body still works. Movement that is stiff or calculated or compensatory reads differently. This is movement where you can see effort. You can see the man thinking about each step. You can see him managing pain or limitation. He reaches for a glass, but his shoulder moves differently. His arm does not extend all the way. His movement suggests that his body is not fully cooperating with what his mind wants to do. Movement like this reads as a body in decline. But here is the critical distinction that most men miss. There is a huge difference between a man moving with slight arthritis, but adapting beautifully to it, and a man moving as if everything hurts, and he has accepted this. A woman over 50 can read adaptive movement instantly. She can see a man who has limitations, but who has learned to work around them, to move creatively, to compensate, to keep going. She reads this as resilience. She reads this as a man who is still living within his constraints, rather than being limited by them. The opposite is resignation. A man moving stiffly, moving slowly, moving in a way that suggests he is expecting pain. This reads as a body that has given up, not a body that is aging, a body that is surrendering. Pay attention to how you move through a room. Do your movements feel easy? Do they feel creative? Do they feel like your body is still available to you? Or do your movements feel like a negotiation with your own physicality? This is what women are reading. This is the signal that tells her whether your physical vitality is genuine or whether it is performance. Movement quality matters. But underneath all of this is one final signal that women over 50 read before anything else, and most men are completely blind to it. Your face is telling a story about your emotional life, even when you are standing completely still. Women over 50 read this story first, before she notices anything else. Your default facial expression, what your face does when you are not thinking about it, reads as either openness or guardedness. This is the resting state. When you are standing alone or waiting for someone or lost in thought, what does your face do? Does it relax into a neutral state? Does it open slightly? Does it look approachable? Or does your face exist in a state of chronic tension? Pursed lips, furrowed brow, eyes slightly narrowed. This is what your face does by default. Women over 50 have lived long enough to know that chronic expression reveals chronic emotional state. If your face carries tension even when you are at rest, your emotional life carries tension even when nothing is happening. If your face relaxes and opens when you are alone, your emotional life has learned to relax and open. This is not theory. This is something every woman over 50 has observed repeatedly. Here is what most men do not realize. Your resting face is doing more work than any other signal you are broadcasting. A man can correct his posture. A man can still his hands. A man can ground his weight. But a man cannot lie with his resting face. His resting face is the truth. It is the emotional weather report. A relaxed face with slight openness, this reads as approachability. It reads as a man who is not at war with the world. It reads as someone who has made peace with something. Women are drawn to this, not because it is a performance, but because it signals that the man underneath the face has done some of the work, that he has become someone worth approaching. The inverse is also true. A face that carries chronic tension, even subtle tension, reads as a man carrying something heavy. It reads as bitterness or anger or detachment, not necessarily visible anger, but chronic emotional pain that has shaped how he holds himself. A woman over 50 recognizes this immediately. She sees it and she understands that connecting with this man would mean absorbing some of that weight, so she does not. This is the one signal that changes how all other signals are interpreted. You can have perfect posture and the best kept skin and clear eyes and fluid movement. But if your face is telling the story of a man at war with himself, all of those other signals become less believable. Conversely, a relaxed, open face can make imperfect posture read as authentic rather than performed. It can make your presence feel genuine even when everything else about you is still being assembled. Now that you know what she is seeing, the final piece is understanding what to do with this information. The 7 signals you now understand: posture, hands, weight distribution, skin texture, eyes, movement, and expression. These are not separate things. They are pieces of one unified story that your body is telling. A woman over 50 is not checking off a list. She is reading a narrative. She is asking, is this a man who is still living or a man who is managing? Is this a man who takes care of himself or a man who has given up? Is this a man whose emotional life is accessible or a man who has closed the door? What matters is not that you perform these signals perfectly. What matters is that you stop broadcasting contradiction. You stop standing with a vertical spine while your face broadcasts pain. You stop having clear eyes while your hands are shaking. You stop moving well while your skin suggests you have not cared for yourself in years. Contradiction is what women read as dishonesty. The moment you understand this, everything changes, because you realize you have control over every single one of these signals. You are not waiting for youth to return. You are not hoping that confidence magically appears. You are simply choosing to let your body tell the truth about where you are now. A man who is still here, still living, still taking care of what he has been given. You do not need to overanalyze this. You do not need to think about every movement or every expression. The goal is not performance. The goal is alignment. When your posture aligns with your skincare, and your eye clarity aligns with your movement quality, and your resting face aligns with all of it, that is when the signal becomes powerful. That is when women over 50 see you. Which of these 7 signals do you think women over 50 are reading most clearly in you right now? I read the comments on this channel, and I want to hear which one landed for you. Was it the one you expected, or was there a signal that surprised you? Drop your answer below. The reason I ask is because this channel is built around one simple principle, that understanding female psychology is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming honest about who you already are. Every video here reveals another layer of that, and next video reveals the 5 psychological triggers that make women over 50 initiate attraction first, and which one is most powerful for men at your stage of life. The women who are about to change your life are often waiting for you to give them a reason to look twice. This video showed you what she is looking at. The next one shows you how to give her reason to keep looking.